What's up, YouTube.com? It's Sasquatch with a $sign.
It is so good to be back up in this shit.
I'm back from my 2-year hiatus. The last 24 months have been filled with far too much bullshit for me to feel happy or write anything funny, much less turn it into a video. But today, I'm back, and I got some good shit for you guys right here. Some shit I'm well educated on, you know what I'm saying? I had to switch up the formula because making full-scale animation videos is fucking impossible. Not that it's actually impossible, it just takes forever. So I pretty much just adapted the YouTube video style to be a little bit more like goblins and still have my silly little cartoons as well. And also, it gives me an excuse to post all my insane Far Cry 4 gameplay, because yes, I play a 10-year-old video game and I am fantastic at it. I've been playing it for 10 years. I've been very dedicated to it. This one right now is actually a custom map. It's islands with an exclamation mark. I put a good number of hours into this, and I have several other ones. I'll include my gamer tag in the post editing, and y'all can see and just look them up because they're free on the Far Cry map browser thing. You just go download and play them, whatever. My gift to you, my gift to the world, all of my children and my followers and my loved ones. Unlike Goblin, though, I've spent most of my life in an unbearable state of sobriety rather than 5 times fatter than a hoe. One reason for this would be my job as a lifeguard, which is why I feel qualified to bring you the top 10 reasons to not swim somewhere. You know all the intrusive thoughts you get around water? Well, I'm here to tell you that they are all very, very real. Water is for fish. Air is for people. If you try to breathe water, you'll die. This is a drowning prevention video and touches heavily on very dark subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised. Number 10.
Nobody around. So, basically, one of the most dangerous things you could possibly do with a body of water is go in it completely alone. When you remove the chances of rescue, the probability of you drowning goes up pretty close to 100 if the drowning process starts. I mean, this goes for, bodies of water, but also swimming pools and really anywhere else there's water. I think it takes 2 inches or something for you to drown. But if you go swimming with nobody around, I mean, you can go, you'll probably be okay. You might get away with it a couple times, but sooner or later, you're going to run into some technical difficulties at the wrong motherfucking time, and then that gets to be the last mistake you ever make, ever.
Drowning is permanent, and when you drown, a lot of the process takes place under the water. Once you get to that point, people can't see you anymore. That's kind of the reality of it, especially in deeper water, which, let's be honest, makes all of our stomachs turn just a little bit.
I know it honestly just sounds like some little shit, but for real, this is how most of the people who drown. Maybe not most. I'm not speaking out of statistics that I'm looking at or anything, just kind of rule of thumb. But also, a whole lot of missing people end up this way. I mean, let's just be real. But yeah, anyways, that's number 10. Number 9. Riptides. Riptides are a common one. We all know and love the song Riptide by Ed Sheeran. Basically, it's when a tide or current goes away from the shore. These are often formed by the sandbars at beaches. You can usually escape them by swimming parallel with the shore. And as mild as they can be, they have the potential to turn your relaxing beach day with the homies into miles and miles of swimming, or a $10,000 Coast Guard bill, or just a really, really slow death. Also, they have the ability to drag boats out to sea, which really, really sucks if you're the guy in the boat. Also, big bodies of water are pretty and nice from the shore, but are significantly less pretty and nice when it's just you and your swim trunks way out in the middle of one. And it's just the thought and the whole the real conceptualization of being in the middle of the sea or ocean or whatever you got sucked out into, I don't know, it's scarier than you might think off at first glance. But yeah, those are riptides. Number 8. Contamination and algae. Some water is poisonous, and if you swim in it, you will get poisoned. Some places have sewage with lots and lots and lots and lots of diseases in it. Some places have algae that can make you super duper sick or rot away your brain. Also, like every horrible chemical you can imagine ends up in water, except when it doesn't, because some don't go into water, but that's beyond the point. Anyways, if you swim in really, really yucky places, you could end up with brain damage, you could end up not being able to have kids, you could grow a third limb, or however many limbs you have, plus one. I mean, really, or you could just get yourself in a hospital bed. I mean, you don't even know what's in that water a lot of the time. And if it's like commercial stuff, like some company was just dumping whatever they didn't want to, pay to throw away into it, it can really be like, I don't know, rolling dice, lead, arsenic, like really crazy stuff. Realistically, just try to know where you're swimming before you swim in it. And I mean, by all means, have some fun. I'm from Buffalo. I don't worry about a little bit of lead. I was raised on lead chips. I mean, come on, let's be real. But, just saying. So kind of a sidebar on the contamination one. I remember when I was growing up, there was something on the news that I had seen about like brain-eating amoebas. And it was this whole thing where there were a bunch of kids that summer that were going swimming in ponds, and they were getting pond water up their noses, and then like getting headaches and then passing out. And then when they'd go to the hospital, in the hospital they'd find like tunnels going from their nasal cavity to their brain, that these little amoebas, which are like bacteria, they got in their nasal passages and ate their way through the person's skull and just like started eating their brain. And that's why I was saying, like, you can get brain damage from this shit. Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's blue-green algae that does brain damage, but a lot of those algae and amoebas and shit, like, they get in your brain and they start to degenerate it, and there's nothing they can really do. I mean, there's shit that they can do, but not a ton. Just kind of like, I guess, an honorable mention in that category, but yeah. Number 7. Underwater hazards. Normally you'd go on Facebook Marketplace to find a gigantic pile of shit. But when you find one underneath the bridge you just jumped off of, it can actually be really fucking terrifying, and probably the last memory you ever have. Along with like fishing lines and seaweed, which you just shouldn't swim around, because chances are you'll get tangled in it if there's enough and not be able to swim anymore. And when that happens, it will suddenly become the biggest problem you've ever had ever. I'd like for you all to just close your eyes for a second and try to visualize what being swallowed by toxic sludge or strangled by hundreds of vines 40 feet down in a canal is like. There. Did you picture it? Good. Remember that. Also, as an honorable mention in this category, is just pretty much any random shit under the water that you don't know about. Do you have any idea how many people put themselves on a T-shirt or SSD when they discover the abandoned bulldozer in the bottom of a quarry? And I mean, it could be anything. Fucking trees, rocks, old cars. There's a bridge in Buffalo that a lot of people jump off called Black Bridge. And on one side, it's pretty chill. You feel me? Just like jump off and swim around, and you get out. There's a little bit of a current. The other side has an entire derailed train engine and a couple cars that crashed off the bridge in the 70s, and like an undisclosed amount of shopping carts. And if you jump in there, you're most likely going to end up just not existing anymore. Aside from breaking your skeleton when you fall onto all this random shit, I mean, it can still be a pretty big hazard regardless. Like, if you're just swimming around it and the current takes you towards it, or whatever, you're swimming under the water and you get caught on this shit. You get caught up in fishing line, caught up in seaweed, caught in the mud, fucking stuck on the bulldozer, Maybe you're swimming around and a fucking jagged piece of metal on whatever shit is at the bottom fucking cuts you. Hey, that's not good either, There's just like, in a lot of bodies of water, there's just some weird and random and, I mean, stuff you would expect, but it's just like you don't know where it is and you can't usually see it. So, I don't know. Underwater hazards can be a big deal, and that's why they made this list at number 7. Number 6. Commercial boat traffic. Have you ever really put some thought into what boat propellers will do to a human body when it goes through them? That is exactly what happens. If you are posted up and vibing somewhere a lot of boats go, you run the risk of being run over by one. But unlike cars, which run on circles, boats use either spinning knives or pressure washers. This makes it very, very dangerous to swim around them because they do that, and also they go fast. And also everything else on this list. The boat just straight up hits you. I mean, it could end very suddenly. If the propeller gets you, you could be cut in half or just chopped up or lose a limb or cut real bad. Or, I mean, the moral of the story is just don't swim around a bunch of boats unless you want to get, like, really, really fucked up or die in a horrible way. Deep water. Deep water is scary because it goes very far down. Imagine if you were sitting on the edge of a 60-foot drop, or maybe a shipping canal or something. Like, it's the same principle as dangling your feet off of a 60-foot building or cliff. The only difference is the space is full of water. And as much as you may believe you are Michael Phelps or some shit like that, you can still fall to the bottom. The difference is you go slowly and your lungs fill up with water on the way down. That is what we know as the drowning process. Really, think about it for a second. Who the fuck is going to help you when you're 80 feet down and sinking in Lake Ontario? This could very easily be a reality for you. If you run out of steam, or pretty much anything else happens to you on this list, it gets to you. If you're in the ocean, deep water where great white sharks hang out, and I know I said I was done talking about predatory wildlife, but try and rationalize what it would be like for a fish the size of a Bradley armored personnel carrier to fucking snatch you off the surface of the water. If you are thinking about jumping into some really deep, sketchy water, please do me a favor and don't. Or maybe do it like it'd be pretty badass, not gonna lie. I don't know, coming from a libertarian, do whatever the fuck you want to do with your life. It's just not my cup of tea. If you could do me one favor, wear a life vest. Number 4. Undertows. So basically, an undertow is formed when one current meets another current, possibly an object in the water, or water of a different temperature, water that's still. It's when the current cleaves off in like a vertical, like part of the current is flowing underneath the surface of the water, but the surface of the water is still. And these can create a lot of really, really, really big problems, like pulling you down when you go swimming. Yeah. It can be a really, really big deal if you are in a body of water and the current snatches you from below and pulls you down. What you're supposed to do when you encounter an undertow is follow it or swim across the surface. If you're caught in it real good, you got to follow it to where it ends. Otherwise, you got to try and stay on the surface as best you can. But, I mean, it can be a really, really big deal and a really, really bad thing to get caught in an undertow, especially if you're above deep water. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, you know the feeling. You know the feeling when you're swimming and it's like, oh, I sure hope nothing grabs my ankle. I sure hope I don't get dragged down by my ankles. Yeah, it's like that's a real thing that happens, and you have every right to be afraid of that. And it could be something else on this list, but the water will do it. The water will do it to you itself. I mean, I don't know. Enough said. But those are undertows and why they are not good. Number 3, cold. Okay, so cold water is one of those, like, unbelievably dangerous things that you should always respect and be careful around because it will kill you. I guess that's kind of like maybe an overstatement for a lot of applications or statements. You're not gonna keel over from falling in the creek, but I mean, you could. Let's be fair, it depends on the creek. And when we're dealing with big bodies of water, say an ocean, a sea, a big-ass lake, a big-ass river, something with a current, especially something with ice on top, fucking Christ, but cold water saps the strength out of your muscles very quickly, and it also hurts a lot. It makes it feel like you can't breathe, and spoilers, water also does that. So it's just like, it's like starting a timer. You don't know how long you've got, and it could really just, it can be the cold that gets to you. Hell, you might not even really drown. You could freeze to death in the water before you even drown. But outside of freezing to death, eventually you're just not going to be able to swim anymore, and eventually can come pretty soon if you put yourself in that sort of a situation. Also, notable to mention, everything else on the list, in conjunction with cold, it's like multiplying the danger by a bajillion million. So, if you want my professional advice, stay away from cold water. Don't swim between October and, like, April, like, prior to April, because that water, I mean, I guess if you have a little spot, you know, but you really, you're rolling some pretty heavy dice there with some pretty low stakes, you know what I'm saying?
The Shadow Realm is a real place, and it is 50 feet down in Lake Erie in February. Don't go there because you will die. Don't do it to yourself. It is not worth it at all. If you really want to swim in the cold, wear a life jacket or go to one of those polar bear swims day drunk. But otherwise, probably just don't. Number 2, hostile wildlife. On some occasions, you may enter a body of water and encounter aquatic animals. Most aquatic animals you would reasonably encounter sort of like scamper away when they see a gigantic hairless monkey splashing around the surface of the water. But a lot of them will just say, fuck this guy, and engage in some creative interpretation of aquatic stand your ground laws. Like kind of an anecdotal thing. Hold on, I'm gonna cut this one. So when I was 12, I was in Canada, and my family for a couple of years would go on camping trips in Canada, and there were these cottages way up in some fucking backwood where, like, I think it was like maybe like 6 of them, like way down a dirt road. It was sick. I can't even lie. It was cool as fuck. Great experiences, great times. But there's the swimming area, a swamp, and a sandbar island that is made up of like vines and bushes and a couple of trees. Like when you're in Lakeland in like Canada, where it's just like lake, forest, lake, forest, lake, forest, there's like actually a lot of like these like islands and sort of like island and reef, like, you know, I'd say biomes, or however you want to put it, you know, ecosystems that, like, anyhow. So there's this sandbar island. To the right there is weeds and lily pads. To the left, just rocks that go out into the lake. And then also close by is a swimming area that everybody swims in. And there is this sandbar island with all these bushes and roots. And I'm walking up to the outside, and I'm a little nervous, you know, because you know, you be thinking, damn, that snapping turtle take my whole toe off. Or like, you know, you think about something. I was walking up to the outside of this island. I took a couple casts. I don't know if it followed my lure in, or if it just shot out from underneath the tree. But a pike shot out and tried to bite me. It was like 1 or 2 feet long. It's been a couple of years. I don't remember, but it was big. And I kicked it. Because, you know, you waiting for something like that to happen. I was all jumpy. And I just, like, clomp, 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 jumped back in the canoe and went home. I was like, no, I've had enough. I've had enough. And it was scary. It was scary because he almost bit the shit out of me. Like those, you ever seen, like, a northern pike mouth? I'm going to pull up an image for y'all right here. But, trip down memory lane. Okay. So, for some fucking reason, and don't ask me why, because I really can't tell you, sturgeon, like, you know, sturgeon, will propel themselves out of the water and knock people out of, like, kayaks and boats. Like, this was on River Monsters. He did a whole fucking episode on this. This might as well just be a short recap. But, fucking, mind you, the sturgeon, these little stinkers, are actually not little at all, and can sometimes grow to damn near 20 feet long. Like, I think there are sturgeon that might break that, but
still, I mean, for real, like, I don't even know. I don't know what they be doing. They be popping out on some greasy shit. Maybe they eat the people. Maybe they eat the people at the bottom. That makes sense. Bottom feeders. They might just be assholes. They could be on little karma missions, like the forest spirits tell them to go get that guy. He's been fishing without a license or something. I don't even know. But, yeah, like, they might just really be popping out on some crazy shit. I mean, for real, it's like, Erie County really be like that, so I can't even say none. But either way, it's pretty badass that they do that, and I don't know. I like sturgeon. I always have.
But yeah, another thing I want to say, because it's my YouTube video, there's no fucking way all those surfers go missing because they drown. Stop fucking lying to yourselves. I mean, granted, a lot of them do. Let's be fair. But those fucking wetsuits, first off, they float, and so do the surfboards that they are tethered to. Second of all, if you jump in the ocean in a goddamn seal costume with a floaty piece of plastic shaped sort of like a seal, and then ride around on it on the surface of the water, like how a seal swims in a place where seals live, and so do sharks that hunt and kill and eat them, what do you really think happens to those guys that just disappear without a trace, you know? If a shark really wants to eat you, which sometimes they fucking do, and it's been observed in the wild, 90 to 95% of you will be in their belly, and the other 5% of you will be either a red cloud in the water or a couple of chunks floating or probably sinking to the bottom. Yeah. But anyways, I'm done with my soapbox about cool water animals. The list of ones that will attack you just goes on and on. There are cases of fucking geese killing people in the water. And outside of being mangled, like, think of how quickly... Number one, once dams and drains. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We made it to number one on the list. The double D's. Dams and drains. Do you remember how I said that undertows can be caused by man-made horrors beyond our comprehension? This is what I meant by that. And the reason I say that is beyond our comprehension is because nobody could tell you what it's like. Pretty much everybody that has gone through this is dead now. Drains are very scary because you don't really know where they are, and you also can't breathe underwater, so if you get sucked into one, it's kind of exactly what you'd imagine. Like, it's sort of a known rule of thumb. Like I said earlier, if an undertow gets you, it's best to usually just follow it. This is an example of that being 100% the wrong thing to do, because either you're going to get stuck on whatever grate or gate or opening is at the start of the drain and just drown helplessly pinned, or you are going to be sucked away down a fucking pipe to mostly just more miles and miles of pipes. Like, I feel like most people, me included, are too pussy to crawl down a narrow pipe full of air. Imagine that pipe filled with water and a strong current. This is why drains are scary. Dams, on the other hand, are similar, and there are actually several varieties. There are big-ass hydroelectric dams we all know and love, where either you end up washed down a glory hole or spillway and fall however many feet into a spinning, whirling turbine that will literally grind you into paste and spit you out the other side, or you are sucked down to either an impassable grate where you drown hundreds of feet below the water, and, you know, or you end up sucked through a giant spinning turbine that will grind you into paste and spit you out the other side. This is exactly what's going to happen through your head the entire time. I mean, it's happening to you. And the entire time you're also going to be thinking how silly and stupid you feel for dying and losing everything and disappointing everyone in this really unnecessary manner. But to be fair, that goes for everything on this list. Also, as an honorable mention in this category, are low-head dams, which are oftentimes known as drowning machines. These thingamajiggers are basically just walls in the middle of a river to regulate the depth or elevation, and they create pretty much a horizontal whirlpool where if you fall in or accidentally, even if you bring a boat, I mean, like, God forbid, which are usually immune to this sort of thing, you're going to be sucked down and spun around in a circle, usually for long enough to be very, very dead. Nobody's going to save you,
At least nobody professional. The Coast Guard doesn't touch these fucking things. The fire department doesn't really like to either. And if anybody tries to come help you, all you're going to do is increase your KD before you leave this world. Those big-ass hydroelectric dams that'll suck you and churn you into paste, they'll also drown the fuck out of you, not just above the dam, but below it. Like, if you were to swim or fall in, usually the water outlets are either below the water or coming into the water in such a way that it churns it, and it doesn't churn it in a good way. I mean, I don't know if you remember the section about undertows, but it's basically like the most powerful undertow you can imagine. And once it grabs you, it's probably not letting go. I feel like out of all the dam-related things, this might be the one that you're most likely to survive, but by most likely, I mean, you probably have like an 8 out of 10 chance of dying, if not 9 out of 10. Maybe you have that life jacket on. Maybe you're lucky. Maybe your shoes float really good. I don't know. But stay the fuck away from dams. Don't roll those dice. Really. Yeah, once you are really caught up in dams and drains, you are pretty much guaranteed to die. And that's why they hold the #1 spot in my heart and mind for how to put yourself inside of a backwood with a body of water. Also, as an honorable mention on this list, I would like to include waterfalls. As someone who has lived 20 minutes away from Niagara Falls for over 90% of his life, I feel well educated to speak on this. Niagara Falls, while being a delightful little treat for tourists and locals alike, is also where people go to kill themselves, with pretty much 100% efficiency. Everyone who has survived going over the falls did it on the Canadian side, and probably wanted to live. Several examples of people going Niagara Falls was one of a child in a life vest who was shot dozens of feet away from the churning death trap at the bottom by a high-pressure stream of water, and he, like, miraculously ended up living. And also that lady in the barrel the one time. Waterfalls are great, but they can also be terrifying sometimes. Guys, so that is the top 10 ways to go away forever with a body of water. I hope you all enjoyed, but I would really like to include this like little bit of perspective at the end, because this has been a lot of really, really horrifying shit. I'm someone who loves to swim. I lifeguarded for years, and it was pretty much the only job I held between 15 and 20. Swimming can be so incredibly fun and beneficial, whether it's in a pool, a lake, an ocean, river, whatever. At the end of the day, swimming should be about fun, and you should still have fun, and you should still try to have fun. Swimming in open water is honestly one of the most rewarding and natural experiences that you can have. It's like entering another dimension. As well as being pretty unique, it's an incredible natural environment. I'm a big proponent of doing dangerous shit carefully.
I swam a lot this summer, and it put some real respect in me for the environment, but also it got me out the way. And I mean, like, out the way. Sometimes you hop in some water and it is just unreal. This is supposed to be a water safety video, so I can't really say go swim in places with no swimming signs that you know you're not supposed to. But when you do, that's some shit right there. And if you ask me, you shouldn't get your thrills or jacking off your... what you should do is probably go swimming. Go swimming right now. Fill up your bathtub and sit in it if you don't have access to a pool. If you got a pool, swim in it. If there's a lake, jump in. Fucking go for it, buddy. This is Sasquatch Community Outreach signing off. I hope you have a beautiful and lovely and great day. Be safe. Have fun. Follow my SoundCloud at Sasquatch with a $sign. And you know what? I guess that's it. I'll catch y'all later. Bye. Don't know if y'all can see that, but somebody misplaced their coconut. Somebody lost their coconut. What a shame.